Now let's stick with our breakable glass scene here for a few more minutes and talk about an environment entity that is going to help with objects such as glass or really any material that you apply that's meant to be reflective, or when you have environment lighting. We'll also add some reflective materials, and we'll go over environment cube maps. Cube maps are basically a bunch of tiny little pictures which get built and applied to different surfaces to simulate the reflections, refractions, and can also help reflections to NPC characters and to ourselves. So let's just make a few adjustments to this map and add some environment cube maps and see what happens. Okay, so we're going to just ungroup our box here. Ungroup. And we'll delete the roof there. We'll create a skybox around it so we can get some kind of, different reflections here. Don't need to go overboard. We're not really going to be throwing stuff around, so we'll just create a fairly basic box. And we can go ahead and browse to our tools, skybox texture, enter to make it solid with the skybox, Control H, we'll just hollow it out. There it is. All right, done. Let's add a light environment entity so we can light our map kind of convincingly here. Environment, add that selection tool, and we'll just put it somewhere that makes a little more sense than on the floor. All right. Now, glass is obviously a reflective surface. You want to see some stuff reflecting off of it. There's some other cool textures that come with Half-Life 2 that do the same. So let's just create a little bench or kind of block in front of our window here. We can shrink our grid a little bit bigger, make things a little easier. There we go. Okay, and let's see where we're at here. Bring it down to the floor. Let's actually cut it a little. I just wanted to make it a little smaller, that's all. Jeez. All right, let's make it a little smaller. Pull it a little bit further away from our window. Create it. Okay, it's a wrong texture. Let's go to the texture tool, browse. We'll make this some metal. Let's go down to metal duct. I think might not be. There we go. Metal duct 001. There we go. Apply. And we'll just kind of align our textures or fit our textures. That's not what we're looking for. I can just scale up our object a little bit too. Yeah, something like that. A little taller. All right. And let's also create some water. We'll scoot this guy out of the way. We're going to divide our floor. Actually, yeah. Just create a little pool of water. We can divide up our floor with the clipping tool. Make both sides white, so we just cut right down there. Cut them again. Yep. And really don't need to cut all of them. Just cut this guy right across. Yep. Okay. And now this area here. Can extend down a bit, give it a little bit of some depth, and we'll change the texture of that little section. Shift A, browse to water. All right, we have several different waters. You'll see the first couple are water cheap, beneath, different angles. They mostly look the same here because you're looking at what's called the normal map, basically the ripples on the water. But the cheap, basically, we'll get into it more again with optimization, but you have cheap water and expensive water. And cheap water is easy for the engine to render. The other waters are a little tougher. But since we have such a small area of water, we'll just go ahead and choose the first water 2. Apply that. Okay, so now we have some reflective materials. We have this kind of shiny metal duct here. We have our glass. We have a skybox lit by the sunlight. And we have our water. If we were to run our map, and maybe we should just do that. Let's save it. We'll change it from breakable glass to be a cube map level. And we'll run it. And right now we have no cube maps, so the name's not quite right just yet. But what we're going to see is how our map is lit from the environment lab, from the environment light, with the water and the metal and the glass without any cube maps. Now, you see there's some reflection in the water. Get down there, you can see it's swimming right at the surface. You'll also see that our metal grate doesn't really have any reflections. It kind of looks like it may be reflecting the concrete, but there's nothing super detailed about it. A little bit of refraction in the glass there, but it's not really reflecting much either. Now we have our water. Again, we didn't really put a base to it, so water, you actually slide right through. It's water. You sink right into it. So as I go in, there's water for a little bit, and then it's my void. So let's exit our level and try out some cube maps. All right, so a lot of our materials, reflective materials inside of Hammer, require external data to really, upon playback, show these reflective situations more effectively. So environment cube maps, which are an environment entity, we place the entity tool, environment. You see there's actually quite a lot of environmental entities. Blood, explosions are huge. We'll at least touch those. And some other puffs and smokes and beams and stuff. The one that we're looking for right now isn't actually anything that you see per se in the game, but its effect is huge. So environment cube map, and we can place these, and we place these little reflective looking circles all about our level. And what environment cube maps do are basically take snapshots around themselves of how the reflection should work. So we need to give them some thought when we place them as far as where we place them and for what reason, but they automatically are a bit responsible for the brushes and materials around them. So generally, depending on what you're using CubeMap for, are you trying to generate reflection for just the environment, for an NPC, for the player? You want them to be at least 16 units away from any object really in question. So our grid is on 8 right now. We can go to 16 and make sure we're at least one grid unit, 16 measured units away. Generally a good idea just to put them even a little further. And we don't want it right on the ground. We want that up at least 16 units and really right about at eye level, so about 64, 63 units above the ground. If you're trying to get some reflection up higher, obviously you put them a little higher, but generally a good idea just anywhere where you know what you want some detail in your level, or there's any reflections happening. We'll put another one here close to the water. Just shift drag to clone a bunch of them around the level. If you're not sure you should put a cube map somewhere, you should probably just put the cube map there. It's really just the best idea. So we've just got a few cube maps around the level with the water area on the glass. Could put another one closer to our glass there. Might be overdoing it slightly, but there's two stages to cube maps. They're placing them within your level and then actually building them and including them in the BSP, the map file, the level file that someone's going to be able to play. So let's save our map. We're going to compile with those cube maps in there, make sure everything's on normal. All right, but they're not there yet. We need to open the developer console, tilde key, and type build, pops up there, cube maps. I'm going to hit enter, and you're going to see a lot of little images being drawn on screen. What it's doing is drawing the reflections. Now that we have our cube maps, we can restart our level. And now our reflections don't really have any highly reflective textures. Now our reflections, there you go, you can see in the windows there, are much more reflective, much more refractive of the objects around them. You see kind of this reflection of our environment, lighting hitting the window now. Much prettier. Looks a bit more like glass. You don't just see that the texture so much in the glass. You actually see some reflection, some light being refracted off the windows there. And the same for the water, although it might not be hitting. Oh, you see it. There you go. You see it bouncing on the edges there. Much better. Really helps out. So environment Cubemap, really essential. Shoot the water. That's fun. Okay. Good times.